The audience inside the courtroom thought they were about to watch another fake influencer lawsuit that would end in 5 minutes. But nobody expected what was about to happen when one of the internet's biggest streamers came face to face with Judge Judy. The tension inside the room was already unbearable before the case even began. A teenage fan sat nervously at the plaintiff's table clutching a folder filled with screenshots, donation receipts, and printed livestream clips. Across from him sat IShowSpeed, leaning back in his chair with the relaxed confidence of someone who had spent years turning chaos into entertainment. Wearing a designer hoodie and expensive jewelry, Speed looked more annoyed than worried, like this entire courtroom appearance was just another inconvenience interrupting his streaming schedule. But what nobody realized was that hidden inside the fan's folder was one piece of evidence so damaging that by the end of the trial, Judge Judy herself would call it one of the most irresponsible influencer moments she had ever seen. Before we dive into this unbelievable courtroom battle, comment below where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe for more insane celebrity courtroom stories that sound too crazy to be real. Trust me, this one gets absolutely out of control. The teenager suing Speed wasn't just some random internet troll looking for attention. 17-year-old Daniel Rivera had been one of Speed's biggest supporters for nearly 3 years. He watched every live stream, defended him online during controversies, bought merchandise whenever new drops appeared, and spent hundreds of dollars donating during streams hoping Speed would notice him. Daniel came from a working-class family in Texas where money was always tight, but supporting his favorite creator had become an obsession that slowly consumed more of his life than even his parents realized. His bedroom walls were covered in Speed posters, his TikTok page was filled with Speed edits, and his dream was to someday meet the creator who had helped him through some of the hardest years of his life. That dream seemed like it was finally coming true during one live stream that changed everything. 6 months earlier, Speed had hosted one of the biggest giveaways of his streaming career. Thousands of fans flooded the live stream as he promised massive prizes including gaming PCs, PlayStations, cash prizes, signed merchandise, and even a private meet-and-greet opportunity. The stream exploded across social media as viewers spammed donations trying to get noticed. Daniel had spent nearly all the money he had saved from his part-time grocery store job donating throughout the stream, hoping for just one response from the creator he admired most. Then it happened. Near the end of the live stream, Speed suddenly shouted Daniel's username while reading chat donations. Seconds later, a moderator announced that Daniel had supposedly won one of the grand prizes. The chat exploded. Daniel nearly fell out of his chair in shock as screenshots flooded social media showing his username displayed during the stream. Speed even pointed at the camera laughing and yelling that Daniel was the lucky winner today. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like his loyalty had finally paid off. But that feeling didn't last long. Days passed with no email. Then weeks. Daniel repeatedly contacted Speed's business email, moderators, management accounts, and social media pages asking about the giveaway prize. At first he stayed patient. He assumed large creators were busy. But after 2 months without a response, panic started turning into humiliation. Friends at school who had congratulated him started making jokes about the fake giveaway. Online commenters mocked him for believing an influencer actually cared about fans. Even worse, Daniel had already told his parents about the prize, convincing them that all the money he spent donating had finally been worth it. By the 3rd month, the situation became personal. Daniel started posting screenshots publicly asking for answers. Some fans supported him, but others accused him of chasing clout or lying entirely. Speed continued streaming normally while Daniel watched giveaway after giveaway happen without his situation ever being acknowledged. Every ignored message felt like another reminder that the creator he had defended for years didn't even see him as a real person. What made the situation even more painful was that Daniel still didn't want to hate Speed. Even after months of silence, part of him kept believing there had to be some misunderstanding behind the scenes. Maybe management forgot. Maybe moderators lost his information. Maybe Speed himself never even knew the prize hadn't been delivered. But eventually, Daniel's frustration reached a breaking point after one live stream changed everything forever. During a late-night stream, Speed briefly reacted to fans complaining about giveaways in chat. Laughing loudly, he joked that people online were too sensitive and expected creators to hand out free money just because they donated during streams. Most viewers ignored the comment instantly. But Daniel didn't. Because sitting in his bedroom watching that live stream, after 6 months of being ignored, he realized something horrifying. Speed remembered. And that's when Daniel made the decision that would drag one of the biggest internet streamers in the world into Judge Judy's courtroom. The moment Judge Judy walked into the courtroom, the entire atmosphere changed. The casual whispers from the audience instantly disappeared as everyone stood to their feet. Even IShowSpeed straightened slightly in his chair, though the confident smirk on his face never fully disappeared. He had walked into that courtroom believing this entire case was ridiculous. To him, it was just another internet misunderstanding that had somehow spiraled out of control. But unlike livestream chats filled with screaming fans and moderators protecting him from criticism, this was a courtroom where every word mattered, every lie could be challenged, and every excuse would be examined under a microscope. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses slowly while reviewing the case documents in front of her. For several seconds she said absolutely nothing. That silence alone made the tension inside the room unbearable. Daniel sat nervously clutching his folder while Speed leaned back trying to appear relaxed. But the cameras caught the small signs of discomfort beginning to appear on his face. His fingers tapped against the table. His jaw tightened every time Judge Judy turned another page. And when she finally looked up directly at him, the confidence in the room shifted instantly. "So," Judge Judy began calmly, "you are one of the largest internet streamers in the world, and this young man claims you publicly announced him as the winner of a giveaway that he never received. Is that correct?" Speed shrugged casually. "It wasn't like that. Streams move fast. People joke around online all the time. Everybody knows giveaways on streams are entertainment." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Judge Judy stared at him for several seconds before speaking again. "Entertainment?" she repeated slowly. "Young man, millions of people watched you announce a winner publicly." Speed immediately jumped in again. "Yeah, but people clip stuff out of context online. Fans take things way too seriously sometimes." Daniel looked down at the table, clearly hurt hearing the creator he once admired dismiss him so easily. Judge Judy noticed instantly. "How old are you?" she asked Daniel gently. 17, he answered quietly. Judge Judy nodded slowly before turning back toward Speed. "And you believe a 17-year-old donating money to your live stream should understand that your promises are not real promises?" Speed sighed loudly and leaned forward. "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying creators say crazy stuff all the time during streams. It's content." That sentence changed everything. Judge Judy removed her glasses carefully and placed them on the desk. Audience members familiar with her courtroom immediately recognized the danger in that movement. It was the exact moment she stopped being patient. "Content," she repeated. "Do you understand the difference between entertainment and deception?" Speed opened his mouth, but Judge Judy cut him off immediately. "No. Be quiet for a moment because I'm speaking now." The courtroom fell completely silent. Daniel nervously opened his folder and handed several screenshots to the bailiff, who delivered them directly to Judge Judy. One by one she examined the printed images carefully. The first showed Daniel's donations during the livestream. The second showed Speed reacting to his username. The third froze the exact moment a moderator typed the words, "Congrats you won," into the livestream chat while Speed celebrated loudly on camera. Judge Judy's expression hardened instantly. "You publicly announced this child as a winner in front of thousands of people," she said sharply. "Then ignored him for 6 months?" Speed shook his head quickly. "I didn't personally ignore him. I got managers, mods, editors. I don't handle all that myself." Judge Judy leaned forward. "But your face promoted the giveaway." "Well, yeah, but..." "And your platform accepted the donations." "Yeah, but..." "And your audience believed you." Speed paused. For the first time since entering the courtroom, he had no immediate response ready. The audience could feel the shift happening in real time. Daniel slowly pulled out another document from the folder. "There's more," he said quietly. Judge Judy motioned for him to continue. Daniel explained how he had repeatedly emailed management accounts, contacted moderators, and posted publicly asking for help. He even showed printed screenshots where moderators acknowledged seeing his messages before eventually blocking him entirely. Every ignored message made the situation look worse. But then Daniel revealed something that caused Judge Judy's eyebrows to rise immediately. "There's a deleted clip," Daniel said nervously. Speed's face changed instantly. A small flash of panic crossed his expression for less than a second, but the cameras caught it perfectly. Judge Judy noticed too. "What deleted clip?" she asked. Daniel swallowed hard before answering. "A stream where he talked about giveaway winners after mine." Speed immediately interrupted loudly. "That clip's out of context." Judge Judy slammed her pen onto the desk. "You will stop interrupting me," she snapped. "Because right now, young man, you are not helping yourself." The room went dead silent again. Daniel slowly reached into the folder and pulled out a USB drive. And the moment Judge Judy saw it, the entire courtroom realized this case was about to become much bigger than anyone expected. The second Daniel placed the USB drive onto the courtroom desk, the confidence completely disappeared from IShowSpeed's face. For the first time since the trial began, he stopped leaning back in his chair. His posture stiffened, his eyes locked onto the small device in Daniel's hand, and the nervous energy spreading through the courtroom became impossible to ignore. Even the audience could sense something serious was about to happen. Judge Judy noticed Speed's reaction immediately, and after decades of courtroom experience, she recognized panic when she saw it. "What's on the drive?" Judge Judy asked calmly. Daniel swallowed hard before answering. "A deleted livestream clip. One of Speed's editors accidentally uploaded it before it got removed." Speed instantly shook his head. "That clip ain't the full story." Judge Judy slowly turned toward him. "I didn't ask you." The bailiff connected the USB drive to the courtroom monitor while the room sat in complete silence. Even the audience members leaned forward slightly, waiting to see what could possibly make one of the internet's biggest streamers look genuinely nervous. Speed rubbed his hands together rapidly while staring at the floor. His earlier arrogance had started fading into visible frustration. Then the clip began playing. At first it looked like a normal late-night stream. Speed sat laughing with friends while reading messages flying through chat. Loud music played in the background as donations flooded the screen. But then the conversation shifted toward giveaways. One of Speed's friends joked about fans constantly asking where their prizes were. Speed laughed loudly. Then came the sentence that changed the entire courtroom. "Man, they really think I'm sending all that stuff?" he said while laughing into the microphone. Several audience members immediately gasped. Daniel stared silently at the table while the clip continued playing. Speed kept laughing as chat messages about giveaways filled the screen. One friend asked if any winners had actually received prizes yet. Speed shrugged and smirked. "Bro, once the stream over, people forget about it anyway." The courtroom went dead silent. The video stopped. For nearly 5 full seconds nobody spoke. Judge Judy slowly folded her hands together and looked directly at Speed. The disappointment in her expression somehow felt even worse than anger. "You laughed at people who trusted you," she said quietly. Speed immediately sat forward defensively. "That clip was a joke. Everybody jokes around during streams." Judge Judy didn't blink. "This young man spent his own money supporting your platform because he believed your promises. It's entertainment." Speed snapped louder this time. "People online know how streaming works." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed instantly. "No," she replied sharply. "Successful adults know how business works. Teenagers trust people they admire." That sentence hit the courtroom like a hammer. Speed tried interrupting again, but Judge Judy raised her hand immediately. "You became wealthy because millions of young viewers trusted you enough to support your content. The moment you accepted their money while making promises you had no intention of keeping, this stopped being harmless entertainment." The audience murmured quietly in agreement. Daniel finally spoke again, his voice shaking slightly. "I defended him for years. Every time people called him fake online, I defended him. I spent money I should have saved because I thought he actually cared about his fans." Speed rolled his eyes slightly. "Huge mistake." Judge Judy noticed instantly. "Did you just roll your eyes at him?" she asked coldly. Speed sighed loudly. "I'm just saying he acting like I ruined his life over a giveaway." Daniel looked down for several seconds before quietly answering. "It wasn't just the giveaway." The courtroom became silent again. Daniel explained how embarrassing the situation became after months passed with no response. Friends mocked him at school. Online fans accused him of lying. His parents became angry after learning how much money he had donated during streams. But the worst part, according to Daniel, wasn't losing the prize. It was realizing someone he admired never respected him at all. "You made me feel stupid for believing in you," Daniel said quietly. Even some audience members looked emotional hearing it. Speed shifted uncomfortably in his chair. For the first time all trial, he seemed unable to maintain the loud, confident personality that made him famous online. Because unlike live streams where he could scream over criticism or end the stream whenever things became uncomfortable, there was nowhere to escape now. Judge Judy leaned back slowly. "You know what disturbs me most about this case?" she asked. "Not the missing giveaway. Not the ignored emails. It's the arrogance." Speed looked confused. "What arrogance?" Judge Judy pointed directly toward him. "The belief that fame places you above accountability." The room exploded with murmurs. Speed immediately raised his voice again. "Nobody forced people to donate." Judge Judy slammed her hand against the desk. And nobody forced you to make promises. The sudden outburst shocked the entire courtroom. Speed stood halfway from his chair in frustration. You don't understand internet culture. Judge Judy stood up too. For the first time all trial the two were face to face. And the tension inside the courtroom instantly became unbearable. The moment IShowSpeed stood up from his chair, the entire courtroom froze. Even the audience members sitting in the back rows stopped breathing for a second as the tension between him and Judge Judy exploded into something far more serious than a normal courtroom argument. Speed's frustration had finally boiled over. His face was red, his hands moved wildly while talking, and the calm internet personality he usually switched into during interviews had completely disappeared. What remained was pure anger mixed with panic. You don't understand internet culture. Speed shouted again. People joke online every single day. Y'all acting like this was some criminal scam. Judge Judy didn't sit back down. At nearly 80 years old, she somehow still carried more authority standing silently than most people screaming at full volume. She stared directly at Speed for several long seconds before speaking again. Young man, she said coldly, internet culture is not a magical shield that protects irresponsible behavior. The audience immediately erupted into murmurs. Speed threw his hands into the air dramatically. Bro, millions of creators do giveaways. And millions of creators actually deliver them. Judge Judy fired back instantly. The room exploded with shocked reactions. For the first time all trial, Speed looked completely cornered. Every excuse he tried collapsed the second Judge Judy challenged it. First it was just entertainment. Then it was management's fault. Then it was internet culture. But now the evidence sitting on the courtroom monitor had made one thing painfully clear to everyone watching. He knew fans were waiting for prizes and he joked about it anyway. Speed paced slightly beside the table trying to calm himself down. This whole thing getting blown out of proportion over one giveaway. Daniel quietly looked up from his seat. It wasn't one giveaway. The courtroom went silent again. Judge Judy slowly turned toward Daniel. What do you mean? Daniel reached back into the folder and pulled out several printed screenshots from social media. After I posted about what happened, other people messaged me. Speed's face immediately tightened. Daniel handed the papers to the bailiff, who delivered them directly to Judge Judy. One by one, she reviewed screenshots from multiple fans claiming they had also won giveaways connected to Speed streams but never received anything. Some messages were angry. Others sounded embarrassed and defeated. One fan even wrote that they stopped watching streams entirely because they felt manipulated after donating money repeatedly. Judge Judy looked up slowly. Is this true? She asked sharply. Speed immediately became defensive again. Anybody can fake messages online. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. One screenshot caught her attention instantly. It showed an email conversation between a member of Speed's management team and a fan asking about delayed giveaway prizes. The response read, "Please stop publicly posting about giveaways. We are handling the situation internally." Judge Judy's expression darkened immediately. So your team was aware people were complaining, she said. Speed rubbed his forehead aggressively. I don't control every email my team sends. But you profit from every live stream your team manages? Judge Judy replied. That sentence hit hard. The audience could feel the momentum completely shifting against Speed now. Earlier in the trial, some people still viewed this like harmless influencer drama. But now it looked much uglier. The screenshots, deleted clips, ignored messages, and management responses painted a picture of someone who had grown so famous and disconnected that he stopped seeing fans as real people. Judge Judy slowly sat back down, but her eyes never left Speed. You know what your problem is? She asked calmly. Speed stayed silent. You became successful too quickly without understanding responsibility. Speed laughed sarcastically under his breath. Another terrible mistake. Judge Judy leaned forward instantly. You think this is funny? No, Speed muttered. I just think everybody acting dramatic. Judge Judy pointed toward Daniel. That young man gave you money he earned working at a grocery store because he trusted you. And your response was to mock fans privately after the stream ended. Speed looked away without answering. The silence became uncomfortable. Then suddenly, Speed grabbed his chair aggressively and pushed it backward. I'm done with this, he snapped loudly. Audience members gasped immediately. The bailiff stepped forward slightly as Speed started walking away from the table toward the courtroom exit. Cameras followed every movement while whispers spread through the audience like wildfire. Nobody could believe what they were watching. Judge Judy's voice cut through the chaos instantly. If you walk out of my courtroom, I will rule against you immediately. Speed stopped near the exit but didn't turn around. This whole thing fake anyway, he muttered angrily. Judge Judy's expression hardened completely. Fame has convinced you that consequences are optional, she said sharply. But this courtroom doesn't care how many followers you have. The room fell silent again. For several tense seconds nobody moved. Then Speed slowly turned back around. But the look on his face told everyone the situation was far from over. And what happened next would become the most viral moment of the entire trial. For several long seconds, nobody inside the courtroom moved. IShowSpeed stood near the exit breathing heavily while cameras captured every second of the tension on his face. The audience watched silently, unsure whether he was actually about to walk out or finally sit back down. Even the bailiff remained alert, carefully tracking Speed's movements as the atmosphere inside the room became unbearably intense. Then Judge Judy spoke again. But this time her voice was calmer. And somehow that made it even worse. You know what saddens me most about this situation? She asked quietly. You had millions of young people supporting you because they believed you were genuine. And instead of appreciating that influence, you treated their trust like a joke. Speed slowly turned around without saying anything. Judge Judy continued. Most teenagers don't fully understand contracts, business structures, or management teams. They understand trust. When someone they admire promises something publicly, they believe it. The courtroom stayed completely silent. You built a career on young fans emotionally investing in you, Judge Judy said. The least you could do is respect them enough to keep your word. Speed finally walked back toward the table, but the arrogance that filled the courtroom earlier was completely gone now. He sat down heavily without making eye contact with anyone. For the first time since the trial began, he looked exhausted rather than angry. Daniel quietly stared at the desk while Judge Judy reviewed the final papers in front of her. Then came the sentence that would spread across social media within hours. Internet fame, Judge Judy said slowly, does not excuse dishonesty. It simply gives dishonesty a larger audience. The audience immediately erupted into applause. Even the courtroom staff looked stunned by how perfectly the moment captured the entire case. Cameras zoomed in on Speed's face as he sat silently rubbing his forehead while the applause continued around him. The viral clip had just been created in real time. Judge Judy raised her hand for silence. Mr. Watkins, she said firmly, using Speed's real last name for the first time all trial, this case was never just about a missing giveaway prize. It was about accountability. Speed stayed quiet. You publicly announced this young man as a winner. Your platform accepted his financial support. Your management ignored repeated attempts to resolve the situation. And then you mocked giveaway complaints privately while continuing to profit from the same audience. The room remained dead silent. Judge Judy turned toward Daniel briefly. No teenager should feel humiliated for trusting someone they supported. Daniel looked emotional hearing those words. Then Judge Judy delivered the final ruling. I am ruling in favor of the plaintiff. Audience members immediately reacted. You will reimburse the value of the promised giveaway, repay documented donation expenses connected to the livestream in question, and cover additional damages for failure to reasonably address the situation after repeated contact attempts. Speed looked down silently while the courtroom buzzed with whispers. But Judge Judy wasn't finished yet. And I strongly suggest, she added sharply, that you and your management team re-evaluate how you conduct online giveaways moving forward. Because eventually, influence without responsibility destroys itself. The audience applauded again. Daniel looked completely stunned. After months of being ignored, mocked online, and treated like he didn't matter, someone had finally listened to him. His hands shook slightly while organizing the papers back into his folder. The pressure and frustration he carried for months seemed to disappear all at once. Meanwhile, Speed sat silently staring at the floor. No screaming. No arguing. No excuses. Just silence. And somehow that silence felt louder than every outburst earlier in the trial combined. As the courtroom session ended, Speed stood up quickly and attempted to leave without speaking to reporters waiting outside. But the damage was already done. Clips from the trial were spreading online before he even reached the hallway. The phrase "internet fame does not excuse dishonesty" instantly exploded across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and X. Reaction channels uploaded breakdowns within hours. Fans argued non-stop online about whether Speed deserved the ruling or whether internet creators were being unfairly targeted. But one thing nobody could deny was this. The trial permanently changed how people viewed influencer giveaways. Within days, hashtags related to the Courtroom battle reached millions of views. Commentary creators called it one of the biggest influencer accountability moments ever seen online. Some fans defended Speed, claiming streamers shouldn't be expected to handle every giveaway personally. Others argued Judge Judy exposed a major problem in internet culture where creators made fake promises for engagement without consequences. As for Daniel, the teenager many people originally mocked online, his story suddenly inspired thousands of viewers who had experienced similar situations with online creators. Messages flooded social media from fans sharing stories about broken promises, ignored giveaways, and influencers treating supporters like disposable numbers instead of real people. And somewhere in the middle of all the chaos, one reality became impossible for the internet to ignore. A teenager everyone laughed at had walked into court against one of the world's biggest streamers. And won.